The Dogs are on an incredible roll, and they're not done. That's what Paul Finebaum said about Georgia earlier this week. And the Georgia Bulldogs have got Mississippi State this week, obviously, a challenging road game. They're going to have to close out their season with back to back road games, y'all. That is not the easiest way to navigate the close of a season, that's for sure. But the Yellow Jackets are right after that, so Georgia will have the final game of the season in Athens between the hedges against Tech. Georgia looks right now, I mean, I think it's relatively clear that they are the best team in the country. The question is, um, what will happen as we move on here? Will Georgia continue to play the way that they have lately, which is absolutely smothering people, or will they let up some? We've seen that. I think the thing to remember about Georgia coming into this thing is how well the defense has played the entire season, and there's always been some discussion of how the offense has struggled at this point or that point. Yeah, I mean, okay, but the reality is that they've always had the defense there to help them. And y'all, with the exception of Ohio State and then maybe I guess Michigan, who else is going to come and score a bunch of points on this defense? I think that's the challenging thing going up against the Dogs. When Paul is talking about they're not done yet, we still have, those 3 games in the regular season. We've got an SEC championship game that's probably on the way, and then you have at least a semifinal. There are not fewer than 5 games left in this season. They've only played 9 games, so they're 9-0 with a bullet, it seems, and we're not at the finish line by any stretch of the imagination. So is Georgia going to continue to get better or not? I mean, where are we with this thing? I do not think Georgia's best game has been played yet. And if it has, it was the Oregon game, not the Tennessee game. I mean, they played really well against Tennessee, but we only kind of got to see half of a game there. As a, I can confirm to you as a person who was literally trying to do stuff in the rain, that was a challenge the other day. It caught me unprepared, which is rare. And I think for Tennessee, it caught them down 3 scores, and they just never could make those scores up. Um, it was asking too much of the balls. So what's going to happen when Georgia will have, if they are in Atlanta? Okay, so if Georgia wins this weekend, they're going to be the SEC East champions for the 5th time in 6 years. Okay, 17, 18, 19, 21, 22. So that's a significant run that this league. I would have to go back and look. This league's not seen that a lot over the years. I mean, Florida in the '90s, yeah, but since then, no. Um, and with that, you know, you'll see Georgia play in Atlanta. They're not going to be outsold in Atlanta. I mean, the 17 Alabama game was as close, national championship game was as close as we've seen to Georgia being equaled in the dome in Atlanta. Ever since then, whether it was the Cincinnati game, the Alabama game in 18, certainly the Alabama game in 21, certainly the Oregon game in 22. Georgia outnumbers people in Atlanta, and they should, right? But that's going to be a reality for whoever they play, probably LSU, in the SEC championship game. LSU is the one team, one program that has had more success than probably anybody in the dome in Atlanta against Georgia. I mean, they beat them in 3, they beat them in 11. They beat them in 19. You know, Alabama won in 12, 17, 18, but and 21. So maybe Alabama as well. But those teams weren't dealing with. I mean, Alabama did in 21, but those teams weren't dealing with what they're dealing with right now. Make sure, because we're in the 20s now, and we're going to run out of the tickets. So make sure you're picking up your event for your Kelee Ringo event. This has been really awesome to work with his group on this. You're going to get a book. You're going to get a few signatures. The details are down below, and we're going to have a photo with you and Kelee. We're not going to talk all day long to Kelee. Everybody knows we got to get everybody through the line. This is an exclusive event. It's a small crowd, obviously, and but the disappointing part is that because it's small, the tickets are going to run out soon. Take advantage of this. Check it out down below. You're going to get dog instruction included in the event. We're going to have some other cool stuff there as well. So let me know down below and email me if you have questions about it, dean@dogpost.com. This is a Georgia team that I think Paul understands two things: entertainment and where people are in this league. And right now, he is correctly seeing that Georgia is really going to be challenging to lose. It's going to be challenging for someone to beat this Georgia team. By the way, the event is at Red Zone. Our friends at Red Zone in Athens, they're getting ready for it. They've got some major events coming up too. They've got the holidays, the Tech game, and the Kelee Ringo event. This is all going to be on Clayton Street. Obviously, check for the times, but they're open Sundays after games. Okay, they are open Sundays after games. Get it while you can. There's some really cool stuff that you can see that's there as well. Um, they have some really cool stuff. My friend Jeff Foxworthy is texting me right now, and I'm going to tell him that we are good for our event, which is Sunday, this Sunday at the Dome, at the Barnes and Noble and Perimeter, and that's going to be fun too. I mean, you know, for someone who I misunderstood the Jeff Foxworthy situation, and then he explained it to me, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense because I didn't understand why Game Day was picking him. Well, he is a huge Georgia fan. He just happened to go to Georgia Tech because it was closer, which is a different time, a different world. If you've not gotten dog instruction, this is sidetracked me now. If you've not gotten dog instruction and read his story in here about what he did about his grandfather as well as about um, his uh, his journey with Georgia, I'm telling you, it's probably the best part of that book, frankly. But anyway, is Georgia getting better? It seems like it, y'all. I mean, the reference points here, there are two things. A, you've got the Oregon game. B, you've got the Missouri game. That's kind of the stretch of time and a stretch of play from Georgia. They won both games. They won both games. Obviously the Oregon game was a disaster for Oregon, but the Missouri game was much more strain on the part of the Dogs. But even in that game where they lost Jalen Carter during the game, they lost Smile Munden during the game, they had 3 turnovers, and Missouri played well. They've got a good defense. You're on the road at night. Georgia still was, I think, clearly the better team. And I just, that's the part to me that we've seen Georgia get challenged. We've seen Ohio State get challenged. Um, you know, Tennessee's been challenged and has survived a couple of times. The Alabama game, but the Pittsburgh game, both those. And I do wonder if Georgia and Tennessee were to play again, how would Tennessee match up, even in Atlanta? Because the likelihood is that game, the rematch would be in Atlanta. The likelihood, not the certainty. I mean, if Tennessee gets in, they probably will not be higher than 3. Um, so we'll see what's going on there, which means that there's a 50-50 shot that they either play Ohio State winner, the winner of Ohio State Michigan, or Georgia, the SEC champion Georgia, undefeated in Atlanta though. And I don't know that much changes if you play in Atlanta. Now, if you play in Phoenix, maybe the crowd is different, but the offensive line's not different. The defensive line's not different. The speed of Kelee, Christopher Smith, and everybody that doesn't change. So Bullard, last year I'm going to forget somebody. So that's the real challenge for those guys. I think schematically, Tennessee is the challenge is the scheme plus the players and the quarter. I mean, the quarterback's great, but I don't know if that changes in Atlanta. Frankly, it might be worse in terms of sound. That's the part because you've got a dome. But I think this weekend, um, as REM would say, you can't get there from here. If you don't beat State, you're not going to be playing in Atlanta. It's not a certainty. So that's the part that I would pay attention to very closely this weekend if you're the Dogs. But they should certainly have their way with Mississippi State. Okay, Mississippi State is a one-dimensional team that is playing better. Okay, they're 6-3, but their three losses, the loss to LSU, the loss to Alabama, and then really not the other loss, but the game with Auburn this past week. I mean, it's just not a good look. And I think, and the loss to Kentucky was not good either. But hey, look, we'll be in Starkville. Do not forget, we will be at Perimeter Mall, the Barnes and Noble. You can call Barnes and Noble. We'll be there from 2 to 4 on Sunday. We'll see you there.